I'm Jason and this is Saving Sally, and today I've got myself a brand new director. My little boy's going to be directing today. Go ahead and take back into your director's chair. He's really into the car and he seems to like anything that I do that involves the car, particularly the videos as well, so I see no reason not to let him come in and be my director for the day. So today we're going to be having a look and showing off the 17 by 9 inch factory reproduction wheels that I bought from Hawks Motorsports to go on my 1991 Trans Am. I want to point out here that there are no sponsorships, but I am going to be naming some names just simply because I think it goes better to telling the story. But I just want you to know that I'm not being sponsored by anybody, although I think it's about time somebody reach out to me. So if you are interested in sponsoring, leave me a comment. So I got this 1991 Trans Am, and if you've been following the channel, you know that I had a car like this back when I was in high school, and I am trying to build the car today that I wanted to build back in high school when I didn't have the money to build one. So the wheels are part of the appearance group. We're having to bring them up to date anyway. The wheels that I have that are the factory wheels are looking pretty rough, showing their age. And so the first decision that I had was, do I restore the original wheels or do I just go ahead and buy some aftermarket reproductions? The cost in repairing them was just going to be at very least equal to what it was going to cost me to replace them, and possibly even more. The clear coat had been coming off for many years. I don't know that aluminum really pits per se, but the amount of tarnishing that was on there was pretty deep, and it was going to take some actual machining to get them how they should have looked from the beginning. In addition to that, the original factory paint that was on the cross-lace section of the wheels had more or less either faded or had just become so thin that you were beginning to be able to see the aluminum through the paint in places. So that was going to have to be repainted as well. There was also some curb rash. I think every single tire had at least one place on it where they had been grounded to some curbs. So in addition to the machining, in addition to the paint work, there was some metal work that was going to have to be done. I think what drove the final nail into the coffin was when I began to look at performance tire options. There just really weren't a lot of performance tire options, and in fact none that I could find for a 16-inch rim. But when you step into the 17-inch rims, although the selection isn't great, there is a selection of high-performance tires to be had there, and so the decision was kind of made at that point. Okay, so now we've moved on to the factory reproductions. Bigger rim size allows me to have better options for brake upgrades in the future. The wider wheel size was going to allow me to have a greater contact patch with the road, which is going to increase the grip, and I was certainly going to need it with the engine swap that's coming for this car. And boiling it down to its most basic, the whole point of this project was to scratch that nostalgia itch and to build a car that looks very much factory but can perform with some of the more modern sports cars of today. And so it kind of went hand in hand with, I can get wheels that look factory and maybe even the naked eye doesn't pick up that they're not, but that offer me that performance upgrade. So I ordered the 17 by 9 black cross-lace wheels from Hawks Motorsports. I ordered them with the spacers and the center caps, and 1 week later they were at my doorstep. And first impressions, wow, they were so shiny. So keep in mind that when I had my car originally back in the 90s, that car was already, I think, 8 or possibly 9 years old when I had it. And those wheels, although still looking pretty good, they did have 8 or 9 years on them. So this comparison might not be 100% fair. But I don't remember those wheels being stark black. They were also not quite as shiny except for the aluminum part that had been clear coated. The actual cross-lace section itself seemed like it was more of a matte finish. It seemed like it was a dark gray with possibly even a bit of metal flake. Not so with these factory reproductions from Hawks. These wheels are jet black and they are gloss all over. So the color wasn't 100% what I was expecting, and I shouldn't even say not what I was expecting. Their website very clearly says that they're black. The pictures that I saw showed them as black. I guess part of me was hoping that that was a little bit of a camera lens trickery and they just called it black because maybe that's what GM called it back in the day. But in reality, they are in fact black. I just kind of wanted them to have that charcoal gray that I remembered, but that's really kind of a minor detail. At the end of the day, I'm super happy with the wheels, and I'm going to get into a few reasons why. So now in place of a 16 by 8 inch rim is sitting a 17 by 9. So in addition to changing the wheels, I had to also change the tires, and the tires that I got were much bigger. Now, as far as I know, there were only 2 tire sizes available in 1991 on that cross lace wheel, and those tire sizes were 215/60 R16s, which is what the car that I have today came with, or 245/50 R16s, which is what the car had that I owned back when I was in high school. The new tires were going to be 275/40 R17s, so quite a bit wider. But there's one more surprise that comes with the tire size and a little bit later on in the video. The factory wheels on either side that you had were a slightly different wheel for the front of the car versus the back. So although each wheel would bolt up to any hub you wanted to put it on, the offset was going to be wrong. There was definitely a front pair and a rear pair. Not so with these Hawks reproduction. They're all four the same. The only difference is there is a spacer that you need to purchase if you don't order the complete kit that will allow you to achieve the proper offset on the front. Let's talk about gaining a little weight. So the wheels themselves felt pretty light, much lighter than I had anticipated. You know, just looking at a rim that big, I don't know, I expected it to weigh 40 pounds. It didn't. It weighed about 21 pounds, just a little over. But when I put the tires on, that was when the weight gain really came into play. So keep in mind that the old tires that are on the original rims were a little worn, so the weight's going to be a little low, but probably not that much. The factory wheel with an old tire weighed in at 38.5 pounds. The new wheel and tire weighed in at 47.6 pounds. For the set, that's a gain of 36.5 pounds. Now, that weight gain was not something that I had anticipated or planned for. Looking back on it, I should have seen it coming, but you know, in the original purchase process, it just never crossed my mind. But there are some other things that I'll be doing later on that I hope will offset that weight, including a K-member and some A-arms. So hopefully that weight gain can be lost in that process. So about the drivability. I'm not going to be able to say much about the actual drivability at the limits. All I've really done with the car since I put them on is just kind of cruise it around. But what I will say is that at the limits, so turning the steering wheel all the way to the right and turning the steering wheel all the way to the left, I didn't experience any scrubbing, and the ride comfort didn't seem to change at all. The ride height, however, did change a little. They were about 1/2 of an inch taller for the old wheels versus the new ones. So I did drop about 1/4 of an inch of ride height. But in addition to dropping the ride height, I also picked up quite a bit more of a noticeable fender gap between the wheel and the fender. Even though it's only 1/4 of an inch, the fender gap is already pretty extreme in my opinion for a sports car, and now it's even more. So I'm gonna have to lower the car a little bit in order to combat that. So if you haven't already subscribed, I'm gonna ask you to subscribe now and hit that notification bell, because I am gonna be doing a Hotchkiss lowering kit later on, and if you're enjoying this series, I got a feeling that's something that you will enjoy as well. I do feel like they stick out a little more. It's not excessive. I do think it's just a little bit more aggressive, gives the car a little bit more wider, more planted feel. So I do like that look. And this leaves me with a few of the options that they offer with these wheels. I did go ahead and buy the new center caps. The old center caps that I had, they were pretty faded and they just weren't going to match up very well. You know, if we're looking at this from a full review perspective, I can't really give that. I didn't, you know, push the car to its limits just yet. But as far as an appearance upgrade, I think these are great. I think they're going to dramatically improve the overall look of the car. Having said all of those things, if you're enjoying this content, please give me a like, a share, and a subscribe, possibly a thumbs up. Let someone else know who you think might enjoy the content, because I am looking to grow the channel. And until next time, this is Jason, and this has been Saving Sally.